Hello and welcome back to Bicyclelegs Talks Music and another episode of Anniversary Albums. Today we're going to be looking at albums that are having a significant anniversary in the month of November 2025. For those who are new to this series, when I say a significant anniversary, I'm talking about one that ends in a 5 or a 0. So 50th, 35th, 20th, 45th, that sort of thing. You'll get the hang of it as we go along. Out of the 10 that I've picked today, and again, I had a huge number that I had to leave out, so please do let me know in the comments which ones you think I should have included. Out of the 10 that I've picked, 5 of them are having 55th anniversary this month. So it was a good year in November of 1970, apparently, for some classic albums, including the first one that we're going to have a look at today. It was originally released in the US on the 4th of November 1970. It didn't get released in the UK until earlier in the next year. I don't have the US cover. This album has had a few different covers over the years. But I am, of course, talking about The Man Who Sold the World by David Bowie. I love this album. I've done a David Bowie studio albums ranked top 10. I'll leave a link to that in the description. Did this one make it or not? I'm not going to say. But, I mean, there are so many great Bowie albums that doing a top 10 out of, I think, 26 albums, 28 if you include the 2 Tin Machine albums, was really, really difficult. So, yeah, I mean, he had such a huge catalogue, and I still think this album is great. Definitely, I think, sort of proto-glam in a lot of ways, especially a song like The Width of a Circle and Black Country Rock. You know, it's also got a bit of a bluesy thing going on. There's a bit of those folky elements from earlier David Bowie. But he's definitely getting into some more hard rock here. I mean, you've got some of the beginnings of the Spiders from Mars here with Woody Woodmansley and Mick Ronson. Of course, Tony Visconti is on bass at the moment. This is basically his band pre Spiders from Mars that was called Hype. And, you know, this is produced by Tony Visconti as well. You know, long-time collaborator with Bowie. Great album. Savior Machine, the title track, Man Who Sold the World. I mean, just such a great song. And Nirvana did such a great version of it in their Unplugged as well. So, yeah, all in all, terrific album. The next album we're going to have a look at is having its 45th anniversary in the month of November. It was originally released on the 7th of November 1980. It is the second album by this band, but it's the first one that really broke through into the mainstream. And that is Kings of the Wild Frontier by Adam and the Ants. Now what happened is that Adam and the Ants were a different band before this album. It was Adam Ant and a bunch of other guys. They released an album called Dirk Wears White Socks. Didn't do very well. Malcolm McLaren basically pinched the Ants and turned them into Bow Wow Wow with Annabelle as the lead singer. So Adam had to get a whole new bunch of ants, including a fella by the name of Marco Peroni, who ended up being his chief collaborator songwriting-wise on this album and for several albums to come. And this would be his breakthrough. It had ant music on it. You know, it had the song Dog Eat Dog. But I mean, you've also got wonderful things like the title track, Kings of the Wild Frontier. You've got Killer in the House. You've got Los Rancheros, you've got Jolly Roger, so he's starting to get that pirate thing going already. You got the Magnificent Five, you got the Human Beings. It's a really, really great album. It's kind of minimalist. You got the 2 drummers giving that kind of tribal beat. It's really, really good stuff. And I remember I've been a fan ever since I heard Ant music for the first time on Countdown and saw the film clip for it. So terrific, terrific album. The next album we're going to have a look at is having its 50th anniversary in the month of November. It was originally released on the 10th of November 1975, and that is Zuma by Neil Young. This was the album that immediately followed the so-called Ditch trilogy, which was sort of like a darker period in Neil Young's sort of discography. This reunites him with Crazy Horse for a lot of the album, not all of it. There's definitely a return to sort of an earlier Neil Young sound with this album. He also does a couple of songs here with, Tim Drummond, and there's one song that he does with Crosby, Stills and Nash as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's a really great album. I mean, the big sort of epic that's well known off this album is Cortez the Killer, which is really great. But I mean, you've also got songs like Don't Cry No Tears, Pardon My Heart, Danger Bird, Barstool Blues. Through My Sails is the song that he does with Crosby, Stills and Nash. Drive Back is great as well. So I mean, it's a real, it's a return to an earlier sound, but it's got like a lot of the different elements of the Neil Young sound. Some of it's hard rock, some of it's more that sort of country rock, so, and then you get, a little flashback of the Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young harmonies and all that sort of thing. So I like this album a lot. The next album is probably going to be maybe the most controversial of my picks, in that a lot of people aren't going to think this is a great album, but I like this album a lot. It's a bit of a guilty pleasure, as it were. It's having its 40th anniversary in the month of November. It was originally released on the 11th of November 1985. It is the third album by this supergroup. I am talking about Astra by Asia. I'm going to go so far as to say I think this is a better album than the second album, Alpha. Steve Howe is gone. They bring in Mandy Meyer from Crocus, which, interesting choice because they're completely different kinds of guitar players. This definitely has a more AOR sound even than those first two Asia albums. It's got more of a hard rock sound because of Mandy Meyer and the way he plays. I just like the songs on this album better than the songs on Alpha. Things like Go and Voice of America, Rock and Roll Dream. It's schlocky, but it's over the top and it's fun. Countdown to Zero. Too Late is one of my favourite songs on the album. After the War is great. Suspicion. Yeah, I mean, it's commercial. It's still got some of that, the proggy little elements and that sort of thing, but it's definitely a commercial sort of AOR album. Not often my sort of scene musically, but I grew up with this album and I've always really, really liked it. So what can I say? The next album we're going to have a look at is having its 50th anniversary in the month of November. It was originally released on the 14th of November 1975, and that is Another Green World by Brian Eno, or just Eno as he was going at the time. This is definitely a transitional album for Eno because, his first couple of albums were very song-based, weird and quirky art rock sort of song based, but they were still, mostly vocal and that sort of thing. And after this, he would do a lot of ambient, instrumental, quiet sort of music. And this album definitely kind of has a foot in each camp, as it were. But it's probably one of my favourite Brian Eno albums. I think I love the fact that it's kind of got a bit of both of those sides of Eno on this album. So, I mean, it starts off with The Wonderful Sky Soar. Over Fire Island is great. St. Elmo's Fire, one of my favourite Eno tracks. In Dark Trees, I'll Come Running. The title track, Another Green World, is great. Little Fishes. He's got so many great collaborators here too. He's working with Phil Collins. He's working with Percy Jones. He's working with Robert Fripp. So many great collaborators. John Cale, just to name a few. Another really great track is Zawinul Lava. So, yeah, I mean, everything on this album is really, really good. I haven't mentioned every song, but I could have mentioned any of them. Terrific, terrific album. The next album we're going to have a look at is having its 55th anniversary in the month of November. It was originally released on the 20th of November 1970. It is the debut album by one of the earliest supergroups in rock history. I am, of course, talking about the self-titled Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Now, a lot of people think this is the best album they ever did. I disagree. I've done a studio albums ranked on Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I will leave a link to that in the description. But it's definitely up there. I mean, it's one of their best albums. I don't think it's their absolute best. But it's what a statement. You know, what a statement to the world that, you know, you're coming through as this new band. You know, it starts off with The Barbarian. One of the best pieces of instrumental rock ever. You know, based on classical music, of course, like a lot of their stuff was. And you got the wonderful Take a Pebble, you know, written by Greg Lake, but, you know, absolutely embellished by some absolutely incredible piano playing by Keith Emerson. Just absolutely brilliant. Knife Edge, another great song with some sort of classical riffs and sort of things interpolated into it. Then you get like the real sort of show-off piece for Keith Emerson, The Three Fates. You know, it starts off with the church organ, and then you get like piano, and it's just wonderful. You get Tank, another instrumental. So I mean, fully half of this album is instrumental. Tank is, you know, a classic Emerson, Lake and Palmer piece. It was often used as a bridge for Carl Palmer's drum solo. Thankfully, the drum solo's not too long on this version. Never been a huge drum solo fan. I'm terribly sorry to all the drummers out there, but I still think Tank is great, and it's got some wonderful clavinet on it, as well as, you know, synthesizer and all that sort of thing. And then you get Greg Lake's incredible ballad that he wrote as a teenager, Lucky Man. You know, lovely song in and of itself, but then it's got that Moog solo at the end, which just incredible. Great album, as is my next one, which is having its 50th anniversary in the month of November. It was originally released on the 21st of November 1975. It was one of 5 solo albums released by Yes during their sort of hiatus between Relayer and Going for the One. In my humble opinion, it is far and away the best of those 5 solo albums. I am, of course, talking about Fish Out of Water by Chris Squire. This is as good as most Yes albums, in my humble opinion. He absolutely knocks it out of the park. I've always been a huge fan of Chris Squire's vocals, and I always wished he'd done a little bit more lead vocals with Yes and done more solo albums, because this album's so good. You know, you got Bill Bruford, Mel Collins, Patrick Moraz playing on this album. But the songwriting is absolutely wonderful. You know, it's got Hold Out Your Hand and You By My Side. There's a wonderful clip on YouTube, if you can ever find it, of Chris Squire performing Hold Out Your Hand and You By My Side together. And it's got Bill Bruford and it's got Patrick Moraz, and yeah, it's absolutely wonderful. You get the wonderful Silently Falling, and then on side 2 you've got Lucky 7, and you know, which is an incredible piece because it's in 7/8, which is you know, really unusual. I love this artwork too. I mean, look at it, and the stained glass fish on the back, and all of that sort of thing. Should have had, yeah, it's got wonderful custom labels as well. So yeah, side 2 you've got Lucky 7 and you've got Safe. Both incredible pieces. But just, I would say this holds up with any of my top 5 Yes albums, and it probably beats everything else. So that's how high regard I hold Fish Out of Water. Love that album. Then the last three albums we're going to look at are all having 55th anniversaries in the month of November. Starting with an album that was originally released on the 23rd of November 1970. My best mate Grant Davidson. This album is for you, my friend. I am, of course, talking about Tea for the Tillerman by Cat Stevens. I know you love this album, my friend. I love this album too. I mean, you've got some absolutely classic Cat Stevens songs on this album, like Where Do the Children Play? And Wild World and Father and Son. But I mean, you've also got the title track, Tea for the Tillerman. You've got, you know, Sad Louisa. You've got Longer Boats, Into White, But I Might Die Tonight, A Hard-Headed Woman, Miles from Nowhere. You know, it's just a brilliant, brilliant album. And this is really the album that made him a superstar. You know, he'd had those first two albums. It had, you know, big hit with Matthew and Son. And then he was ill for a while. He changed his sound. He changed his record label. He went from Decca to Island. He had the Monobone Jakin album, which, you know, did well. But this album was the one that really exploded for him. And, you know, just a terrific album. As is the next couple of albums we're going to have a look at. But, I mean, this album having its 55th anniversary in the month of November, released on the 27th of November 1970. What a statement from this former Beatle. I am, of course, talking about All Things Must Pass by George Harrison. And yeah, we didn't get the box here in Australia. We got like a triple gatefold instead. So I don't know which one I prefer, to be honest, but that's what we got here. And I always think of this album, I mean, it's a triple album, but I always think of it as a double album plus a bonus disc. And, you know, because the first four sides, you've got all these wonderful, wonderful George Harrison songs. And then the third disc, side 5 and 6, are these sort of jams with his friends. And they're fun and they're interesting, but it's the songs on the first four sides that it's about for me. The wonderful I'd Have You Anytime, which he co-wrote with Bob Dylan. My Sweet Lord. What an incredible song. Wah Wah, another really great song. Isn't It a Pity? There's two versions of that on this album. They're both great. What Is Life was another hit single for him. If Not For You, cover of a Dylan song. You got things like Behind That Locked Door, Let It Down, Run of the Mill, Beware of Darkness. Probably my favourite George Harrison song. You have the Playful Apple Scruffs, great song. Ballad of Sir Frankie Crisp, Let It Roll. Sir Frankie Crisp was this sort of eccentric guy who'd built the house that George Harrison lived in, Friar Park. Yeah, interesting guy and definitely an inspiration to a handful of George Harrison songs. Waiting on You All is great. The title track. Wow. How did the Beatles pass up on that song? I have no idea. Then you get I Dig Love, which is, again, a bit of a silly song, really. Art of Dying is definitely not a silly song. It's very serious and very intense. Love it to death. You get the second version of Isn't It a Pity, and then you get Hear Me Lord to close out the song section. And then, as I say, you get the jams on sides 5 and 6. Terrific, terrific album. My favourite solo Beatles album out of any of the four of them put out. So, and then on the very same day, the 27th of November 1970, so this album also celebrating its 55th anniversary in the month of November, we get an incredible debut album from one of my favourite bands of all time, and that is self-titled Gentle Giant. Love that cover art. It goes like, so it has the giant and then it's got the band in his hands. You know, it's got the song giant to kick things off. It's got Funny Ways, which would continue to be part of their set throughout their career. You get the wonderful Alucard, which, for those of you who may not know, that's Dracula backwards. You know, and you've got Isn't It Quiet and Cold, which is great. nothing at all, why not? And then you get their version of the national anthem, which was God Save the Queen at the time. So there you have it. Those are my anniversary albums for the month of November 2025. Please do let me know in the comments which of these you like, which maybe you don't care for so much, and most importantly, which albums did I leave out that you think I should have included, because there are some big names that I left out. And also, you guys always come up with albums I didn't even have on my longer list, and I love it when you do that, because then it makes me go out and listen to those albums. Please do like, share and subscribe. It really does help the channel out. If you're new to the channel, please go and have a look at some of my other videos. I have everything playlisted, so if you want to see some of my other anniversary album shows, I have a playlist for those. If you want to see some of my studio albums ranked shows, I have a playlist for those. And if you want to see my appearances on other people's channels, I also have a playlist for those. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm at bicyclelegs on Instagram, Twitter, and a bunch of other places. I also have a dedicated bicyclelegs Facebook page. Links are all in the doobly-doo. Please do give those all a follow and join in the conversation. I'd really love to have you there. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.